This is Nick here from OnlyFabs, and due to popular demand, here's an Oldhim video. Now, I didn't have the time to do all the testing just because most of my testing has gone into Kasai and actually playing Briar myself, so I understand the top dog of the meta. Sebastian did the work for me. Now, he's a German player who played Oldhim since the release of Oldhim in Blitz, in Classic Constructed, and in Draft. Yeah, he likes the old man. So I can provide credentials, but in this case, trust me. He made a brief summary of how to play with the old man himself, and of course everybody's always hanging on this fact of time. Now, I'm trying to explain it in a bit. It's mostly mindset, and I'm getting ahead of myself. So the next part of the video is Catenaccio, which is Italian for luck, and if you've played soccer or watched soccer, then you will know that it's mostly about the Italian blocking of the Azzurri. You can't score if they're 10 men in front of the goal. And Oldhim's kind of like that, right? But he has some Ferraris. There are red cards that actually push through damage. So this time component, going forward with my story, you need to find your opponent fast. So don't dawdle around between rounds and grab a coffee, be late, and be sure to sit your opponent down, with your opponent down, not sit your opponent down, fast. Explain to him what type of deck that you are playing and that you will play to the fastest as is possible. Explain that a draw isn't really good, especially in the first rounds, for the later standings, and just be frank about that you're playing a slow deck and that you will play to the fastest extent. Now, these are tips that he gave me, but I kind of like it. You're making a gentleman's agreement that maybe if a game comes to a draw, that you will most likely let him win because you should have played faster or better, or you're playing the slow deck. At least this was his approach to the tournament, and he didn't draw. He drew once, so there was one draw or two maybe in all the tournaments that he has been playing so far just yet. But you need to learn all the lines and you need to play fast. He actually said that sometimes he makes mistakes, but it's just he'd rather have the tempo and lose due to a play mistake, or actually the play mistake not mattering because he wins, than that double draw, that dreaded double draw. And finally, dominate late. If you pitch it early, that's a way for you to close out the game. So be mindful of what you're putting at the bottom of your deck. And actually, he goes into this, and it's like it's easy. It's an easy skill to learn. I haven't played deck where it's required, but for him, Oldhim, and him playing Oldhim for so long and so many games, packing the bottom of your deck with a strong dominator deck or these red Ferraris that we'll get back to in a bit is actually a way to close out the game and actually win those games. So that's another thing to take from this, from what he told me. Now, the Catenaccio is what makes, if you like grinding out games, what make Oldhim enjoyable to play. But you need to know all these lines and how to block. And I actually must be frank that I have played a couple of games with Oldhim and Crown of Seeds and Rampart, and in a Briar infested meta, no room boots. It was really enjoyable. You had all these interactions on your opponent's side with resources and multiple options. It's not like, okay, I have 2 cards, okay, I have 3 cards, I'll block. No, it's the interaction where you use Rampart's Hat and Crown of Seeds, filter, and also stack your deck a bit, right, with Crown of Seeds. Fix your draw probably with additional card draw. But mostly with 1 blue pitch, you are stopping 3 damage with the no rune, or maybe even 4 with the Ironhide legs and the Rampart and the Crown of Seeds. So this is all very interesting. And finally, of course, there is the Oldhim defensibility and how you use it. So if you're going for a fatigue style, be mindful of when you pitch a blue card for this to put it on top of his deck. But pitching an earth card, and especially if you've already pitched your Oaken Old and maybe attack with an Ice Will, then this is a very useful ability to, of course, use your Earth card. And this is also defending for a bunch, right? So if you have Rampart, Crown of Seeds, and this one, you're pitching cards to prevent 4 damage. Well, you're saying it's still costing you 2 cards, but although you're making the bottom of your deck be powerful and strong, and you're dwindling your opponent's resources, his red cards, just and staying in the game for yourselves, of course. Now again, you can play equipment pieces that will mostly block for 2. They're not used for anything else, but Tunic was actually really strong in most cases. So from the equipment pieces, expect to be running Tunic in quite a lot of them, just so that you have additional resources to spend. And let's be honest, if we're looking at what that one resource will do for you, it will prevent 1 damage, it will activate the Rampart. So there's plenty of options to use it, and you will get great value out of your Tunic if you're going in such a long game. Now, of course, we've talked a bit about how you could pitch stack, etc., but what are you stacking and why are you stacking it? Well, you have these big finishers, well, the Spinal Crush and the Righteous Cleansing, which is, of course, are the known suspects, but you also have Endless Winter and Oakenold. I'm just mentioning these cards in general, and I will provide 2 deck lists in the descriptions of this video. Go through them, but in general sense, there's also hard-hitting attacks in Guardian as a whole, and of course in Elemental Guardian, especially with the addition of the Oakenold. If it hits like a truck, and this is where the skill-intensive part of the deck comes from, and which you need to work towards. And I'll have some situations where you can work towards this. But now we're talking about the attack power of the decks, and we cannot forget the generic attacks, which can also be played on Oldhim. Command and Conquer, powerhouse, especially if you can give Dominate with, and I'm rushing forward with Polar Blast. But mostly in line strike and Command and Conquers are just great attack action cards in general. Now the blues are also pretty sweet, with Winter's Will, of course, always coming in for 4 and mostly trading those Frostbites with the Ice Pitch cards. And Pommel being a great card to actually connect one of the previously mentioned cards. Mostly they try to block out that they leave 2 damage, and then a blue Pommel can just finish it out. Even making them discard an additional card. So all in all, there's plenty of damage also going around in Oldhim. It's not just like it is with Bravo, you know, just Anathos. There are other options where you can set up attacks with Pommel. And how do you set up this dominate late game? Just pitch stack, right? Well, it was quite how do you say it? Like, can't find the right words for it, but it's like, that's just easy. Draw the rest of the effing owl. That's the one I was looking for. So I think this will come with experience, but at least he gave some situations and stated cards which will make this happen. And in the end, we discussed it with some other players. If you have an Oakenold, if you pitch an Oakenold and you attach in that turn another ice card or an earth card with it, a blue one, or whatever card that you, it doesn't need to be a blue one, right? Just needs to be revealed for the fuse effect. It's not that hard to remember that you need to put one of the other effect or other on the bottom. So you have Oakenold. I've stacked it with, I've attacked with a Will, and I did use an ice card to. Now my next cards, if one of those cards is a earth card, then I need to put that on the bottom of there. So this is in the sense the way that you pitch stack and you keep those cards together. And now you know that you will have a crippling crush of an attack coming up in your deck. And with cards like Sink Below and So Tomorrow, Crown of Seeds, and just in general your use of pitching, you will go through your deck as soon as any other deck, of course, but you are also using the cards to defend with it, right? So you're not using cards to put in your graveyard, you're pitching resources, so you're leaving a high amount of damage of cards in his deck. So now I haven't played to the extent that he has been playing a deck, so I'm trying to convey the information that he has put across to me, but I'm thinking I'm doing a fair good job of it. Because it also made me think really thoroughly about how you play this game, and is this pitch stacking difficult or isn't it difficult, and how much of a benefit are you gaining from it. But the big difference is that I've been playing decks where this didn't come up as much, as I played OTK Viceroy mostly in Classic Constructed, where I played Sonata, of course, that those shuffle my deck, and Remembrance, just to have the order of non-attacks and attacks in a better suited combination. Just remember it. This is also the reason why you shouldn't play Awakenings. Yeah, I should have put it in there, but I think I remember it now, so I'll explain why. Just because you're shuffling your deck, you remove all these fat options that you have put together and all the hard work that you put in. Of course, you could say, no, I'm not going to try and to work it, but that's the end game power of what makes Oldhim tick. And if you shuffle your deck, you remove this option, right? And another part is that you're probably making bad plays to make the Awakenings work, because you need to take damage to actually get the effect, because you need to have the Seismic Surge tokens. And if you don't have the high amount of Seismic Surge tokens, what attack are you looking for? So get used to grinding out your matches and making sure that there's a fat stack that will kill your opponent within the allotted time of either Classic Constructor or Blitz. And don't go shuffling your pile with Awakenings and make bad plays just to drop your life total. Keep your life total padded, keep it high, use cards, mostly pitch them, don't block too much with, be mindful of what gets in your graveyard, and just pitch stack. And finally, why would you even play Oldhim? Well, there's the right tools for the top dog to fight him. Blizzard, Frostbite from your will, and Channel Lake Frigid in general are all very disruptive for a deck that doesn't want to pitch any cards at all. So, yeah, he summed it up. I tried to convey all the information that he put to me, to you. So there might have been some stuff lost in translation, but if you have any questions or you want any clarification, just leave a comment and I'll be sure to convey it to him, and he will try and explain it better than I could have done. But if you are willing to practice a little, and if you can be patient, learn to pitch stack, and if you can see the beauty in defending efficiently, you will have a blast with Oldhim. It will take an excellent Briar player to break your defenses, but Oldhim is also very versatile in his offensives. That are the varieties we've spoken of. Did you ever Crown of Seeds into a fuse card you needed for Oakenhold in your own turn? You should try it. Your opponent might say you're lucky, but not if you're pitch stacking. And this is something I think picking up Oldhim and actually trying to learn the skill, it will translate to other decks, and it will be useful for you to actually learn the skills. Just like Kasai taught me to be a better player with blocking, I think playing Oldhim will actually make you a better player in general with regard to pitch stacking and being mindful of what cards you stack together. Now, will this strategy translate well in a Classic Constructor deck and a Blitz deck? Well, yes, but be mindful. Always build your own version to match your local meta. And again, I will make sure that there's a Classic Constructor deck link and a Blitz deck link in the descriptions of this video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.